Hello, my name is Wendy, and I'd like to thank you so much for listening to my presentation. I would like to start off with the story told to me by the former Vice President of Quality at Honeywell. He was participating in a 2-day meeting with leaders from across Europe, and at the end of the day, he told all the non-American staff to stick around for an hour because he had a question for them. His question was simple. What were cultural misunderstandings between the international and American staff that made their work more difficult than it needed to be? It did not take long for the conversation to get rolling. One man said, "People call me at 2 p.m. when your workday is in full swing, so you expect me to answer. However, for me, it's 9 p.m. and I'm putting my kids to sleep." Another said, "The company talks about how we have U.S. and foreign offices, but we do not consider ourselves to be foreigners. We find that word to be disrespectful." While this may seem like an uncomfortable situation to sit in a room full of people discussing why they don't like the way people in your home culture act, this Honeywell executive looks back on this memory quite fondly. He said that it's important to go into every situation seeing people as equals and acknowledging that there's something to learn from everyone. This story is not merely an anecdote, but a great example of the challenges in and strategies for working with multicultural virtual teams. Before I dive into the larger challenges and strategies, I will, like any good student who just defended her thesis, define the terms that I will be talking about. Starting with multicultural, in talking with business people in the community, a common theme came up. There was discussion of organizations which had branches in other countries, but were U.S.-centric in their thinking and actions. Decisions are made by U.S. staff in a U.S. headquarters and then handed out to international staff to be followed. On the other hand, there are companies that are truly global in their mindset. They see the diversity of their staff as an asset and ask for players from many countries to be at the table where decisions are made so that policies make sense for everyone. This latter group is what I am striving to create through these strategies for virtual teamwork. Teamwork is also a word that means different things to different people. Sometimes when students are assigned a group project, they break it into equal parts. Then each individual works on their part alone and brings it back to the whole. For example, one student does 4 PowerPoint slides, and another student does 4 PowerPoint slides, and in the end they have a presentation with 8 slides. The kind of teamwork I'm referring to in my presentation is about more than 1 + 1 = 2, but a synergistic sort of teamwork where team members create a product that is more robust than they could have done as individuals. And so with these terms defined, I will now jump into the challenges and strategies for working in global virtual teams. When I thought about this topic, I knew the first place I should go to help me prepare was the virtual world of social media. I asked my friends from around the world what their experiences in teams have been, and I found several themes. In listening to stories from professionals working around the world, including Costa Rica, Rwanda, Spain, and Thailand, I heard many different challenges. Some challenges were logistical in nature, such as the challenge of time zones. For example, as I give this presentation, it is 13 hours ahead in China. Others talked about technology challenges, like using WeChat versus WhatsApp to communicate. However, most of the challenges mentioned were a bit deeper in nature, lying below the surface of visible cultural differences. One person mentioned the challenge of getting everyone, even shy group members' voices heard. Another mentioned the importance of aligning values. For example, in general, countries in Western Europe tend to be more focused on environmental sustainability than the US. Or in some countries, bribery is the norm, while in others, it's seen as completely unacceptable. So how can one cope with all of the challenges that multicultural virtual team projects can pose? I created this acronym of strategies to do real work. A unique challenge of virtual teams is that the members are not in the same physical space as each other. While this may seem like a problem of the past due to ever-increasing technological connection, there are still communication hurdles that working across virtual space can hold. For example, during an in-person meeting, a few minutes may be spent while everyone gets settled at the table to catch up on the weekend's camping trip or a kid's birthday party. These small human connections create empathy among team members, building a sense of shared mission. While it may seem like a strange thing to do to set aside time in a Skype call to chit-chat, in the end, the time spent enjoying the teammates' company will pay off when sensitive and delicate conversations about conflict must be approached. A crucial part of communicating in virtual multicultural teams is managing expectations. As a team, talk through what the workflow will be and what internal deadlines the team promises to meet. A great way to keep lines of communication open would be to have each individual write up a weekly summary of the work being done so that everyone can see how much progress is being made, ask clarifying questions, and see if the workload is being balanced fairly. In general, work is done in a situation where there is a defined leader or boss. Depending on cultural contexts, the way hierarchy is treated may be different. This could lead to challenges when working on a virtual team project. When working with fellow classmates, there may not be a clear superior to go to when a team is split on a decision and a tough call needs to be made. It is a good strategy to address conflict management before problems and disagreements begin to arise so that everyone knows what the procedures will be. For example, what is the team's response if a group member is not contributing equally in the dialogue or turning in their market research findings on time? Closely tied to the previous 2 points is the importance of assuming good intent from your teammates. Working cross-culturally can be challenging, and it would be nearly impossible to work together for a full year without some sort of cultural misunderstanding to come up. However, instead of jumping to the conclusion that a teammate is purposely disrespecting another if their tone comes off wrong, start with the assumption that they meant well and there was just a bump in the road. Maybe the person is still working on their English communication skills, or in their culture, communicating in this direct way is not seen as disrespectful. This is easier if rapport has been built throughout the whole teamwork process. Another critical part of working in a multicultural team is to have humility to say, I don't know how to do this, or I don't think the way my culture does things is the only right way. Please tell me the way your culture does it. When this sort of humility is illustrated, then a team can truly begin to leverage the resources all members bring to the table. Early in the project, it is important to talk about what each individual sees as their personal strengths, as well as the assets they see in the culture they come from. Continuing to give feedback to teammates and draw out these strengths will make the final product even better. In conclusion, 4 real strategies to improve the functioning of virtual multicultural teams are to build rapport, manage expectations, assume good intent, and leverage the resources of others. These 4 things will improve communications, which increases connection. Connection to team members and connection to the mission of the project are essential to staying motivated when the work in a virtual multicultural team gets hard. Communication and connection are the keys to success.